What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today at midnight, and I'm recording this on Monday. Morning was the deadline for team options, so players were informed if their option was picked up for next season. Sometimes this is to sell them on, sometimes this is for them to continue playing, but other players were informed that they were not picked up and that they will be unrestricted free agents for the upcoming season. So in the Minnesota and Boston teams have already told their players as far as we know and made some public announcements. So in this video, we're going to talk about those teams, do a little bit of an offseason preview, discuss the news, and try and guess what rosters they may try and run next season. There are still some teams that we haven't gotten word on, and we'll probably talk about those on stream later today and in probably another video later on this week. But let's hop in. We're going to start with Boston and talk about some of the fun rumors and news around their team. I think as background, this is Boston's land results this season, and they had a couple of good ones, top 6 at champs, fourth at major 3, but outside of that, and top 6 at their own home event as well. Outside of that, they had some poor placings, and I don't think this team really carried on sort of the top 8 legacy they had last season. They tried a bunch of different rosters. Zen obviously retired. They dropped Vivd. They dropped Nero. I mean, man, like they went through a lot of players last season. They even threw Snoopy in at champs, and it's just really tough with the squad having played with like 6 different players this season, 7 actually, if we count methods, and not really getting the results they wanted. So I think big changes are in store for Boston next season to try and build around some of these younger players with more experience on the roster. And so the first step on that is they did tweet yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, that Vivd and Nero are both leaving the organization. They are going to go ahead and not pick up their options. So I think what's interesting is if you take a look at this statement, I think there's a couple of key kind of call outs here. I think at the end, something really key is, as an organization, we remain committed to our goal of building a culture and a team that wins at the highest level, creating a legacy that our fans are proud to be of for years to come, which I think is key. Like, I think they're realizing that they're in sort of a second phase now with this team of, yes, we've done a really good job of recruiting players, getting talented guys, but they aren't winning. We're not playing for the win, and we need to go ahead and try and be more competitive, make Sundays, make grand finals, win some of them, and have a culture where we can sort of crack into sort of the upper echelon of CDL squads and not just be like a top 6, top 8 team. So the next sort of thing, and this one is more of a rumor from rotation, but they rarely tweet, sources kind of information on this account, and it's wrong. It's usually all correct. They've tweeted that Awakening's being released from Boston Breach, which is really surprising. I think kind of a little bit of a fall from grace for Big Wake, who was sort of supposed to be their big signing last offseason. And yes, Wake definitely can shoot with the best of them, but I think it's becoming clear that as a player, his high-level decision-making, playing for the win, playing not just for himself, but for key team stuff is just really not playing out at the level expected for someone that's sort of on their third or finishing their third season in the CDL. Actually, it's the third season in the CDL. He started him off for 2019. Played Cold War, played Vanguard. So he's actually just finished his third and a half season, and he's still kind of not one of those players that I think is making the clutch plays at end of games. And I think for Boston, yes, they can bring Big Wake back. We're going to keep talking about this with the team option thing, that you can release someone and then pick him back up and sort of sign him to lower salary. But Big Wake is not that guy. He might have good slaying, but he needs to work on the decision making. It seems like they might be going in a different direction now. And you see Big Wake's tweet. He tweeted the classic tweet here from the GTA meme. Here we go again. So it seems like he might be getting dropped. All right, now we get to the fun portion of this. So we start talking about potentially who they might pick up. We're going to take a look at a couple of rumors here, and then we're going to kind of theory craft what the team might do. So the key rumor around their squad is that Boston Breach are targeting Clayster for the 2024 roster. I actually was just at a bachelor party with Clay. This is for Nameless's wedding, which is coming up. And I was joking with Clay in person that he's going to be doing Boston Breach, because I've been saying on stream for a while that I felt like the lack of veteran experience at main AR, and they have Ben Beats kind of running that position. They may try and go in a different route and bring in someone who's won before, won a lot. And Clay seems like a perfect target, because I don't think he's going back to, or he may not be going back to Vegas. So Clay denied it on stream, but I don't know how much that's worth. I definitely think that Boston are talking to him, but we'll kind of get to the sort of the theory crafting thing in a section. I don't think it's a deadlock that he's going to join this team, though. Another interesting rumor that surfaced around Boston is that they've had conversations with Envoy. This really shouldn't be that surprising. I tell y'all all the time that teams will talk to a lot of people. Players will all talk amongst themselves. And I'm not surprised that Boston kind of thinking maybe about moving on from Cramp and talking to Envoy. I don't necessarily see that this is 100% going to happen in this situation, because I could see Envoy going to Optic because I think it's a little bit more of a desirable destination for him, but one to monitor. So, okay, who and what is the Boston roster going to look like? So I think the first key thing here is we're going to put Snoopy. I think he's a lock for next season. I think he looked great at Champs. I do think that he is a young player, very raw, and it's going to take someone to really develop him, but I think they're going to commit and they're going to get him on the team next season. I think the second sub position gets a little bit dicey. We haven't really heard what's going to happen with Krebs, so for now, we'll put them there. Obviously, they were going after someone like Envoy, but I don't see that as a 100% realistic option because I think there are going to be better potential teams out there. I guess we could probably put Pride here, but I just think these are very unlikely trend destinations again for Envoy and Pride, to be honest. I could see them going for someone like a more methodical sub or just kind of more interesting sub partners like Asim or maybe Standy or TJ. I mean, we're kind of not really scraping the top end of SMG potential free agent candidates, but these are players that are likely not going to get their options picked up and may be available. And they can also go with challengers route, sort of with a challengers SMG here, and that may be sort of another potential option. Let's scroll this out so it fits in. So I think the second sub position for Boston is really hard to predict because I'm not really sure where they're going to go there. So let's talk about main AR. I would say for me right now, it comes down to probably some combination of these players. Clay is definitely, obviously, we just talked about and would be a good fit for this team. They could bring back Ben Beans. We haven't heard if he's staying or going. And Slasher's an interesting one to me because I do think that if Austin gets released from Atlanta FaZe, you can make the argument that Austin's a better pickup for this team than Clay is. Austin played a little bit better this season. Just like Clay, he's, developed teams and he's won. I think you have a legit conversation there and it comes down to fit. I think we get to flex though. This is where it gets a little weird. I don't know if this one's hard because like I could see maybe they start 2AR with Beans and they maybe kind of hedge with a sub. I could see it. I don't know if that's the best option. I mean, you could say that maybe this is a good destination for Ender, especially if they pick up Clay. Clay's team with Illy before, so there might be some comfort going on there at that potential opportunity. We're gonna get to a couple of fun ones here. I think if Dan Ghosty gets released, I really like Dan in this spot. He would actually be, and I'm actually gonna move him here because I actually think for me, Dan would be probably the top option here before we get to these other players. And I think the other option that would be interesting as well in the squad is Cammy. So I think these three are pretty straightforward, right? I can see a Clay, Ghosty, Snoopy kind of one situation. I think the hardest part for Boston for me, looking at next season, where they've struggled, right? Trying to be able to find wins, really crack into top 3 or 4 squads. I don't really know where they're going to find the second really good sub. Are they going to go with someone that's more like Asim, that's going to be kind of more of OBJ oriented, or are they going to try and get someone a little bit more dynamic? The problem with someone like Standy is maybe you got to kind of build around Standy's sort of play style, and I just think it's going to get awkward with Snoopy. I think you get one of the similar issues with the way the Krebs has played this season. So I'm very curious how they go in the submachine gun route for that second sub, because I don't think if they get, they're not likely going to get Envoy or Pred. And then once we get beyond that, it gets a little bit dicey in terms of potential options. But maybe they go after someone like Kenny. I don't know. But I think that's sort of where Boston's thinking might be. Then we get more clarity this week on where they land, but I kind of like sort of 3 of the 4 spots for Boston. It's just that last one is really tricky. Before I was about to end this segment on Boston, I realized I'm a moron and I kind of forgot one player I probably should put here and would actually be the most obvious player. I don't even know why I didn't think about this, is Kleenex. I think actually the Snoopy Kleenex duo could be really good. I think Kleenex is someone that could apply pressure and allow Snoopy maybe to like learn to sort of pace the game a little bit more because of the pressure that Toby provides. Obviously, it seems like Toronto is moving on. Boston has at times paid pretty big for players and buyouts. So to me, thinking this through now, he might actually be the best option for this team. And look, if you get out of this roster meeting with a Snoopy, Kleenex, Ghosty, Clayster combination, I think that's pretty good work for Boston. And let's see what they can do. All right, let's move on and talk about Minnesota. So Vanguard was a season to forget for Minnesota. They basically completely blew up their team. They spent a lot of money. While they did have a couple of really good placings, a top 3 at Major 5, a top 3 at Major 2, they were mostly pretty much a team that was a non-factor. Yes, they made a couple of Sundays, but they didn't win any of those maps on those Sundays, and they were at best the 3rd best team at those events where 2 better, higher quality opponents just kind of walked over them on Sunday, really with no pushback. Although I will give Minnesota credit, like You know, they played FaZe a couple of times this season and they took them to round 11. Like, there were times where Minnesota had an opportunity to crack that upper echelon. They just never were able to do it. And they had a couple of moments in the middle of the season where they really struggled. And they almost kind of really had to kind of push here in Major 5. I think why they got third is they really had to push to try and even lock in their spot for champs. And when they got the champs, they got dead last, which I think is contributing why this team is now blowing it up again. There's a couple of things going on here. One, if you see this tweet from earlier this week, they did go ahead and release BrianSaintt from the coaching staff. So Dan, aka Looney, is still there, but BrianSaintt is gone. And I think, look, this is sort of how the business goes. You know, they've had one win in 4 years. It's been mostly down. They haven't been super competitive. Eventually, on the coaching staff, someone needs to take responsibility. And Brian's been there from the start, and that's kind of how it goes in this business. The other piece to it too, and this came out this afternoon, or rather yesterday afternoon, is that they are not going to exercise the contracts unattached. Cammy, Bance, and for all of their second-year team options, and Fame will obviously go to the free agent market. So they're squad wiping their team. Now, the key thing in this statement is that they may go ahead and re-sign those players. They're basically hedging and saying we plan to evaluate all reasonable options. I mean, that's fair because it's not really much a team like Minnesota can do right now until we've talked about this a lot. Someone like FaZe or Optic make a decision, everything kind of cascades down and dominoes down. But we could see some of these players coming back potentially, but I think for now it's going to be a fresh start for the squad. And I think another key thing to think about with the ROKKR, this is also very important. Again, I'm trying to give you the full context before we start trying to attempt to build a roster here. You know, V1 has been pretty clear since the beginning of the year that they're looking to merge with someone, and there's a lot of rumors behind the scene that G2 might be the organization that they're going to get in business with. So keep an eye on that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's a lot of chatter behind the scenes about them starting to staff up a new potential organization. They've been talking to people about this merger. So I don't know if it's true or not. Don't know if it's still being negotiated. But there's definitely a lot of conversations behind the scene that they may be the partner that's getting in. So keep an eye on it. I put this in the rumor category because I don't know how legit this is. So I think ROKKR is going to be super hard to predict as a team as far as what they're going to do. So a player that was not mentioned in all of this is Real. And I would say that for me, I think that's someone that they should keep on the roster. I think he's a very good prospect. It doesn't seem like he's attached to the Miami Heretics project. He played really good in Challengers, had to go home to sort out visa issues. So that's why he didn't really participate at Challengers Champs. And I think maybe could have factored into the main Minnesota roster this season. But I do think that they should keep him and continue to develop him. I think he's a quality player. But this is where it gets a little bit dicey because I don't really know where they see Real's role. They see him as sort of like a second sub. They see him as like more of a flex AR player. Not really sure. For now, I'm going to put him kind of in the second sub category, so we'll slide him here. So there's a couple of routes I can see Minnesota going. I could see them going the, you know, let's run back some version of our Toronto squad with Real. I don't know if I really like this option because clearly the Bance Cammy combination is, I think, not really resulted in event wins the last 2 years. And honestly, you know, Vanguard year for Toronto, I don't think they were ever good enough to beat like FaZe or Optic at their top, or, you know, who else, like Thieves when they were really good. So I don't know if I'm a big fan of this, but I would like, at minimum, I would think for Minnesota, you want to get Toby. I think they may keep either one of Bance or Cammy, but I'm not really sure. So for now, let's go ahead. I think this is sort of, I kind of like this combo. You know, we'll toss in our usual suspects here. Asim, maybe TJ, maybe they bring back Eli. Who else do we think maybe they bring in? You know, I could see like maybe they try. I don't think Wardy's like the type of player. I'm just trying to think, you know, in my head kind of where they're at right now with subs, and I think it's kind of a weak kind of SMG market, so it's a little bit tricky for me to really see kind of where they may go with this thing, and that's why I think like there's an opportunity they keep Ben. I think we just kind of put it there. I think maybe another interesting option here could be Gwyn. I just don't know on the Seattle side if they're going to pick up his option or not. I guess we'll find out today what the deal is, but Seattle has the ability to kind of control that situation, so we'll see what happens. So on the main AR front, you know, they do need some brand power. I could see them bringing back Dylan. I truly can, but this is where we do like the diss thing. You know, we talk about Slasher, we talk about Clayster. You know, there could be a lot of different ways they go around this main AR position. They bring Dylan or do they bring someone like Austin in to set culture, Clay to set culture? I'm very curious what they do. I think all three of those players kind of occupy the same spot on the roster. So I'm very curious to see what direction they go in, and they may take their time to kind of figure things out. Obviously, if Austin becomes available, if FaZe actually do end up dropping him. And we can put Sam here, but I just don't see Sam leaving 100 Thieves. And I think on the same 100 Thieves spot too, again, we don't know what team options, we don't know what we don't know what people are going to do kind of coming out of sort of free agency. Maybe Kenny comes here. I don't know. We'll put his name here just, you know, for funsies, I guess. Now we're going to talk about the flex position. I think this is where there might be a weakness in the market for Minnesota because there aren't, I think the elite flex options in Draza and Scrap fees available are going to get taken. So I just don't really see who's really out there. I mean, maybe they go down an Ender route and they take a flyer there. I mean, we can get kind of crazy with it. Maybe they do try and get Dan Ghost. We just talked about this with Boston. That would be interesting. You know, Gunless is a player that has been mentioned a lot. I can see maybe Pierce being part of the factor here. He can run sub AR, you know, that second AR. We call it flex now, but at least in the last game, it was basically the second AR role. Maybe they bring in Pierce and they give him a look. I think a couple other players that I would add to this list in some ways. I would say sort of in this spot right here, I might put Capsidal as sort of my second AR, but he can really fit a couple of different roles here. That would be sort of interesting. And then another option here I could see is Fellow, because I just don't know if Bracket and Fellow are going to get extended or not. Likely not, considering the Florida thing. Again, we don't really know because we haven't got the info on them yet. But I think there's like combination of players. You kind of see where I'm thinking here as far as the options for Minnesota. They have plenty. I just think the key thing for me and the question that we don't really know because they haven't tipped their hand is, are they going to bring back any of the Minnesota players? We haven't even added this name back, like Cammy. I can see Cammy coming back. And I think if they bring someone like Cam back, they got to try and figure out how to build a team around him to bring the best out of him. So a lot of interesting opportunities here for Minnesota. We're just kind of theory crafting. It's just kind of hard with the squad wipe situation to really know what duos or individual players are targeting. And I think we'll get more information in the middle of the week, but this is my best guess of sort of the player pool that they might be looking at here. All right, so that's the video. A lot of uncertainty around Boston and Minnesota, and I think this comes down to the sort of cascade where they're sort of waiting on between FaZe and Optic right now and Thieves, and we'll kind of see where things go from there. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. We're going to continue to cover roster remaining over the coming days and weeks. Hopefully more information coming today with some more options. We'll cover that on the next video. As always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.